Hey, and welcome. This is Lee Waller, and I am working with Unreal Engine's new motion design tools. In this video, I'm going to take a look at creating this text here that's wrapped around the circle, the flames and the basketball. In a previous tutorial, I took a look at creating this background using cloners. And in this tutorial, we're also going to use cloners. All right, to get started, I'm going to do a little cleanup first on this one so we can recreate this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the flames and the basketball cloner. So I'm just going to select those and delete them. First thing I want to do is work with my text. So I'm going to go over here to the motion design tools and I'll look at actors and I'm going to add in the text actor. I'm just going to double click right here. You'll see the text actor in the outliner and it is back here in the middle. So I'll bring this out just a little bit. And I'll start making some changes to this. The way the cloner works, I'm going to need to set up a text actor for every letter. I can't use one text actor to type out the entire word and it wrap around the circle that we're going to wrap it around. Each individual letter will need to be its own text actor. So I'm going to start off with the F in flames, and I'm going to stick with Roboto. If you want to change that font, you can come over here and choose any of the project fonts or add one of the system fonts. I'm going to center this up, and down here in geometry, I'm going to go ahead and extrude this to 10 and set a bevel of 1 on it. And as far as a material for this, I already have a material that I've created. I'm going to go here into style, coloring style, click on solid, and I'm going to go to custom material. And in my drop down menu right here, I will look for white, shiny. And there it is. I'm going to add that in. Very quickly, I'll demonstrate how to create this material. I'm going to come over here to the content drawer, and I have a folder for materials. And I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to do material. And I'll label this white, shiny, double click on it, and it's going to open up our material editor. And the first thing we're going to need is our base color. So I'm going to click on the base color, drag out to here, and I'm going to search for a constant. And I'm going to go with the vector 3, and we'll make that white. And then the next thing we can do is, rather than bringing out a constant on both of these, since I know what I want to set them, I'll just set them right here. I'm going to set this to 1 on specular and our roughness to 0. And we get this shiny material. We can apply that, save it, and then close that out. And now with that material created, you can go in here and select that material. I do need to change the size of this. So I'll jump up here to scale, and I'm going to bring the size down on this letter to 0.45. Now, the reason I'm changing that is because that's going to be the size that will fit in this space right here. So I've created my first text actor. I'm going to go up here and click once and then wait and then click a second time so I can change the name of this to F so I can keep up with it. So now I'll duplicate this and create the other letters of the word. To duplicate, I'm just going to select it and then I'm going to hit Control D, and that will duplicate whatever item you have selected. So here is F2. I'm going to go ahead and change that to L, and then I'll need to come right down here to the text and change it there. And then I'll keep doing this process until I have the entire word. So Control D, select that, change the name of the letter, and then drop down here and change the letter. So I've created all of the letters that I need. There it is, F-L-A-M-E-S. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to set them back to 0 here on the location. And now we can add in the cloner that's going to create the circle that all of these are going to wrap around. For that, I'll come over here back to my actors, and you'll see the cloner actor. I'll just double click on it. The cloner has been added, and we'll take a look at that cloner. Right here, you'll see that it has the default cube in it. So we're going to get rid of that. So select the default cube and hit delete and say yes right there. One thing to keep in mind is the way that the word is added to the cloner will affect the way that it is spelled. So I have found that starting from the bottom, going to the top is the way that you want to add this into the cloner. Now we can select all of these and drop them into the cloner, and you'll see that they are being cloned. Now it is in the grid layout right now, so we'll change that. So back to the cloner, we'll drop right down here to the layout, open that up. There's grid, and we're going to change that to circle. The cloner has a count, how many clones of the objects are going to be added in. The way that this affects the word is this word is a 6-letter word, so we're going to need multiples of 6. So I'm going to go ahead and on the count, I'm going to adjust this to 36, and you'll see now that the word is beginning to take shape. One thing I failed to do earlier is we do need to rotate all of these letters 180 degrees because right now they're facing inward and we'll need them facing outward. So again, what we'll do to do that easily and quickly is just select all of them. And then we'll go into the rotation on the Z axis right there, and we'll hit 180. And you'll see now they're facing outwards. I'm going to go back to my cloner, and we'll drop back down to the layout. And we can go to the radius to begin to push this outwards, increase that radius size. One thing that we're going to want is a space in between our words. And to do that, I'm going to click on the word label right here. That just helps me deselect anything in the outliner. And I'm going to add in a null object. Just click this button right here. It'll add in a null object. Then we'll bring that into the cloner and drop it right there at the top of the stack. And you'll see that that places a space in between all of our words. Now I want this up at top for this ring right here. And so I'm just going to close up the cloner real quick so we can see this. And I'll go to its location properties, and I'll begin to bring this up. And so we're kind of in place, but what I need to do is push this back. So the center point of these rings on the x-axis is set at 138. So for the cloner, I'll need to also set that at 138 to align it with the rings. And we can continue to adjust the height. And we'll go back to the radius and bring that out a bit more. And we can see that we're starting to intersect the rings up there, and we'll just continue this process till we get them lined up the way we want them. And let me drop back down to my radius, and I think I'll try 330 on that. See, maybe 328. That looks good. Now that I've added in that null object to create that space right there, there's actually 7 spaces in this line of text. So our count needs to be multiples of 7. So I'll bring this up to 42. And if we want to increase the space between our letters or decrease the space between our letters, we can adjust that count. So if I want these to be tighter, I can add another instance of the word in there, and I can go up to 49, and you'll see that they're tighter together. I'm going to take a look at something that might be a problem. I'm not sure. The motion design tools are still experimental, so there might be some bugs in it that need to be fixed. But the problem is when I go to render this text is disappearing. One way to check that before you go to a full render is to come up here to these player controls and click the green play button. And you'll see that pretty much whatever you have here now is going to be what will render. So I'm losing my text in here. I'm going to stop that simulation, and the text comes back. Now, the only way that I have found to fix this at this point is that I'm going to need to make each one of these text actors an actual mesh. Then they'll render out. A couple of problems with this is, one, it's an extra step that we have to take. And two, once we do that, these text actors are no longer editable. If you want to, a good option is to duplicate this cloner, deselect its visibility, and just keep it in case you need to come back to it. For the tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and convert these to meshes, and then we'll look at how they're rendering. So I'm going to select all of them. Then we're going to need to change modes up here. I'll go from the motion design mode to the modeling mode. There, we're going to go to this X-form, transform right here button, and then we'll go to convert. Click on the convert button, and it's going to convert all of these to static mesh. You'll just need to hit accept right there. And now they have all been converted to static meshes. The only problem with that is kicked us out of the cloner. We can again select all of them and drop those into the cloner. And if you want to, you can bring that null object back up to the top, but you'll see now that our text is back. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this back into place. So I'll go to the cloner, go to my location options and bring that back down. So now when I go up here and click play on this, you'll see that it's rendering. I'm going to stop that simulation. The next step will be to animate this. I'm going to select my cloner, take a look at the details. Now I need to clean up from where I had the previous cloners in there. So let me just delete these two real quick. And I'm going to slide this over a little bit so that we can get a little more room in our sequence. And what I want to do is in the cloner, we have this option down here for angle start. And that will be the way that we can rotate the text around the circle. I'm going to set that back to 0. And I'm going to make sure that my timeline indicator is at the beginning of the timeline. I'll jump over here to angle start, and I'm going to click the keyframe button right there. I'm going to add that keyframe in, and you'll see that it has added that cloner along with that property and a keyframe for that property. Let me slide this open a little bit, and I'll jump to the end of the sequence, and I'll add in another keyframe. Going to select that and hit 0.3. And I want to change the way that this animation starts and stops. Right now, it's going to ease out of the beginning and then ease into the stop. I want it to be a constant speed across the entire animation. So I'm going to select both of those, right click, and I'm going to change the interpolation from cubic auto down here to linear. I'm going to click off of those. And now we'll take a look at the animation. Now that I've created that one, I'll go up here and I'll label this real quick. And now I'll start creating the word basketball down here. Just like we did earlier, I'm going to add in a text actor. There's my text actor, and I'll bring that forward so I can see it at first. And I'll go ahead and start making my changes to this. We'll start off with B. And I'm going to leave it at Roboto. I'll come down here and I'll align this. Drop down to my geometry, extrude this to 10. And my bevel to 1. Then I'll need to add in my material. I'll click on this, go to custom material. Look for white, shiny. And I'll add that in. And I do need to change the size of this. Bring that scale down to 0.45. I'll change the name up here to B. And now I can start duplicating this and creating the word basketball. So again, to duplicate, I'll select that first B and I'll hit Control D on the keyboard. I'll change right here to A and then down here in my text property to A. And I'll continue this process, Control D. So I've created the entire word basketball. Again, all of these are text actors at this point, and I can still edit them. I will go ahead and add in my cloner. So back over here to my actors, I'm going to double click on the cloner actor. It adds that cloner in. Again, there's the default cube. We'll get rid of that, select it and delete it and say yes right there. So I'll select all of my letters. I'm going to start at the top here, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and select the bottom letter there. Then I'll drag all of these up into the cloner to make them a child. I'll go back into my cloner, and we need to change our layout right here from grid to circle. And basketball is a 10-letter word, so at first we can start off with multiples of 10. So I'll just bring the count up to 50. And you can see that our letters are all facing in, so we need to flip them 180 degrees. So let's select all of those letters right there again. And we'll go into the rotation properties here. And on the Z-axis right there, we'll set that to 180. Now they are rotated to face outward. We can go back into the cloner, drop down to the radius, and we begin to push that out. And just like we did earlier with the word flames, we'll need to line this up with these rings down here. And again, their center position is set at 138. So that cloner, I'm going to set it at 138. And then I'll bring this down and keep expanding the radius until I have it where I want it. And let's see, that looks pretty good. Let's go back up to the position and bring it down just a little bit more. I'm just going to click on that number and I'm going to hover over it while it's highlighted in blue. And I'm going to use my scroll wheel to scroll down. Now I've lost them. Let me jump back down here to the radius. So I'm going to set the radius at 330 and bring this down just a little bit more. And that looks like that's pretty well lined up. We can continue to adjust it as needed. I do want to add a space in here. So to do that, I'm going to add in a null object, but to make sure that nothing is selected, I'll just click on the word label right there. Now I can add in that null object and bring that into the cloner, make it a child of the cloner. And you'll see now that we have that space. I'm going to check this again, but I have a feeling that this is not going to render as it is. So I'll go up here to the play button and let's take a look. There's our flames, but our basketball is not rendering. So we're going to need to make each one of those a mesh object. So I'll go back over here, select all of them. And now we're going to need to jump into our modeling mode right there. We'll go to the transform options and we'll go to convert, click on convert. And then we're going to hit accept right there. And it messes us all up. So we're going to need to do a little work to get all of these back into place. First thing I'll do is drag them in and make them a child of the cloner. That got our spelling corrected. So now we are good to go. It did throw off our position just a little bit. So I'll select the cloner, go to location, and I'll bring that down till we have it in place. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-S to save everything. And I do need to animate this one. So again, I'll go back into my sequencer. Let me shift this over just a little bit. Go to the beginning of the sequence right there. And I'll need to go into my cloner and jump down to the angle start right there. I can click that keyframe button right there and it'll set our first keyframe right there for us. I'll jump to the end of the sequence. And actually, I'm going to go back to that keyframe because what I want to do is I want to reverse the direction. So I actually set this at 0.3 and then I'll go to the end of the sequence and I'll set that to 0. So that's going to reverse our direction. I do want to change the interpolation of these two keyframes, the easing in and easing out. Right click on them, go to linear right there. That will make it a constant rate across the entire animation. And let's jump back to the beginning and take a look at it. In another tutorial, I'll go over how I created the rings up top and bottom, how I added in this logo and the basketball. Also, there's the animation of the camera. I hope this has been helpful. For more on Unreal Engine's motion design tools, hit the like and subscribe button. In another tutorial, I'll go over how I created the rings up top and bottom, how I added in this logo and the basketball. Also, there's the animation of the camera. I hope this has been helpful. For more on Unreal Engine's motion design tools, hit the like and subscribe button.